Welcome back, folks. I'm Frizz, and today I'd like to talk about the Magus, since I feel like Paizo has managed to really nail the spell sword character niche, and I honestly just think that's sick. I've been seeing some mixed impressions about the Magus class online as a whole, and while it's definitely not a perfect class, it's still a lot of fun, and I like talking about things that are fun. So if you don't know, the Magus class is all about casting spells into their weapons, and then hitting people with said weapon and that spell at the same time with a spell strike. They can also enhance their own power after casting a spell, entering a special stance called Arcane Cascade. They've got some spells, but for the most part, they are a martial class who hits things in combat. Just unlike other martial classes, they actually have a lot of magical tools available to them. Alright, so I just want to say up front that the Magus is absolutely a class that can deal explosive amounts of damage, but the more you try and deal that crazy amounts of damage, the more risk you're exposing yourself to. Effectively, since Maguses deal the majority of their damage in spell strikes, they rely on single large attacks, rather than a bunch of separate smaller attacks. This means that if you're relying on, hitting that one important spell strike, there's always a chance that you just roll bad and miss. This hurts a lot when it does, because you might be using up a very limited resource, and Maguses care a lot about their action economy. Actually, let's take some time real quick and talk about the action economy. Spell Strike takes 2 actions to use, and once you use it, you have to spend an action to recharge it. Since you only have 3 actions a turn, that means that you're probably only going to be spell striking every turn if someone incredibly foolishly decides to stand right up in your face. And running away from a Magus is just a really effective strategy that anyone with half a brain is probably going to do. Most of the time, you're only going to be able to get off a spell strike every other turn, which makes missing one of them feel completely awful because you're not going to use one again for a couple of turns, and it's your main thing as a Magus. Compare that to a fighter missing a power attack. While they miss and they don't do any damage, they don't have to recharge it afterwards, and can probably pull it off every single turn if they're going out of their way to do it. Sadly, action economy isn't the only issue plaguing the Magus class, though it is the biggest one. If you aren't able to get off spell strikes, then you're going to have to rely on Arcane Cascade to improve your damage, and it just isn't up to par when compared to class features that other classes have that improve their damage. Like, really, compare a +3 bonus to damage from Arcane Cascade to, plus 5d6 sneak attack from a rogue. It's just not a fair comparison. It is actually pretty great at triggering enemy weaknesses, but without those weaknesses, specifically the damage element of Arcane Cascade is a bit underwhelming. However, despite these flaws, when the dice agree with you, playing a Magus is some of the most fun I've ever had in Pathfinder 2e. Seriously, there's something incredibly satisfying with hitting someone for like 40 points of damage at level 1 or 2, or expending a spell slot and then watching the enemy explode. Playing a Magus is almost like an adrenaline rush at times. If you spend one of your big spell slots casting haste in a fight, you're now committed, and you're way more effective, and it's just a lot of fun. As a class, it really seems like it goes all or nothing. On any given turn, you're either going to miss, or spend it buffing, or getting back spell strike, or positioning, or you're going to do crazy amounts of damage and potentially one-shot something. Now, one-shotting gets a little bit less likely the higher level you get because enemy health scales up really quick, but still you're doing ridiculous amounts of damage. Well, sometimes, yeah, you're going to miss on a couple of vital spell strikes, and you might miss an unfortunate amount in one combat. The times where it does more than makes up for it. Also, earlier I said that the damage from Arcane Cascade is a bit underwhelming, and that is definitely true, but that isn't to say that everything else about it is underwhelming in the slightest. Every hybrid study, except for Starlet's Span, gives access to cool buffs in Arcane Cascade, like constantly regenerating temporary hit points or magically enhancing your shield. Arcane Cascade makes you feel like a badass punch wizard, and I adore it for that. I get what this whole video comes down to is that I've seen a lot of sentiment online that Maguses aren't very consistent and therefore are not good. In some ways that is true. If you're just running the numbers to see what the most effective strategy is, consistency is incredibly important, and there are definitely other builds that are more consistent. But when you're actually playing the game, in my experience, I never noticed the class underperforming, since in reality, like, any frustration that is caused by not being very consistent is completely wiped away by me just having a blast doing lots of crazy stupid shit. So give it a shot. I swear that the class is a lot of fun. Thanks for watching. This video has been a bit interesting to script, since I don't have enough time to make a full guide to the Magus class, but I really wanted to get my thoughts out off my chest. Honestly, this is kind of just a response to people that treat the game like it's a spreadsheet that needs to be optimized, but hey, I also wanted to talk about the Magus, so, you know, two birds, one stone. Also, I don't know exactly how to pronounce Magus, but Magus is what I'm going with. Let me know about my horrible pronunciation and my possibly horrible takes down in a comment. Also, like and subscribe, I guess. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers, which is a wild thing to be able to say. Regardless, until I see you next, live a wonderful life.